Hello and welcome to an India Today special broadcast that comes to you on board a train from Lviv to Kyiv. I'm Gaurav Sawant. Russian rockets and missiles have targeted Lviv. A fuel dump has gone up in flames. There have been several casualties on ground. Russian missiles and rockets are relentlessly targeting various parts of Ukraine. And over the course of this broadcast, India Today's Geeta, Mohand, who's in Donetsk, and Rajesh, Pawar, who's in Kyiv, and I will get to the latest developments on this conflict on day 32nd of the battle. It is day 32 of this conflict, and President Putin's war machine is bashing on regardless and almost relentless. Yesterday, when the US President Joe Biden was speaking in Warsaw, there were a series of missile and rocket strikes that took place in Lviv. It led to a fuel dump going up in flames. Was this a very clear signal that was being sent out to the US President? While he talked about changing regime in Moscow, while he called President Putin a butcher, on ground, Russian strikes were relentless and they happened in multiple cities. I was in Warsaw. I bring you this report.
The war in Ukraine showing no signs of abating. Over a month and Moscow's war machine is not slowing down. This horrific drone image captures a massive explosion in the capital city Kyiv. The Russian Defense Ministry shared this image of an airstrike on a Ukrainian Buk missile system performed by an Iskander missile. The devastating strike taking out the missile system. In a massive explosion with deadly ferocity. An industrial unit was hit in the region bordering the capital city and Irpin, with multiple Russian missile attacks raining. The mayor of the capital city announced a curfew from 8 p.m. local time on Saturday till early Monday. Residents allowed to leave their homes only to get to a nearby bomb shelter. There were, however, reports which said that the curfew was later revoked. The southern port city of Mariupol suffered relentless shelling since Russia began its operation in Ukraine. Multiple attacks continue to be witnessed in the heart of the city. Residents are taking shelter in basement as they try to stay alive amid the destruction around them. Fresh explosions were reported near Ukraine's western city of Lviv as President Joe Biden wrapped up his visit to neighboring Poland. But Ukraine's military and the brave residents continue to fight back every single day. These images are from Ukraine's second largest city of Kyiv, where residents covered the monument of Shevchenko with sandbags to protect it from Russian airstrikes.
On the last 24 hours, Kyiv has largely remained quiet. There was no airstrike or missile strike on the Kyiv city proper. However, 15 kilometers away from Kyiv towards Irpin, an industrial complex was destroyed by a missile strike yesterday morning. Situation around Kyiv also remains largely quiet. Not much military activity in the areas of Bucha, Irpin or Gostomel or even in Bromry. However, Russian army continues to improve their defensive posture in these areas, rotating their troops, beefing up their supplies, stocking up in these areas.
With Rajesh Pawar, Bureau Report, India Today.
Peaceful countryside in Ukraine now impacted by this conflict. By and large, so far, only the bigger cities were targeted, but now even villages are being targeted. For example, villages around Kharkiv have been targeted. In Lviv, a fuel dump outside the city was targeted, and firefighters spent the better part of the night trying to control the blaze. It led to certain injuries, it led to some casualties, fortunately all non-fatal just as yet. But the situation appears to be taking a turn for the worse. And why is that? So far, the West was considered relatively safe, the western part of Ukraine. But now increasingly, the western part, whether it's Lviv or Ivano-Franko, are in the line of Russian fire.
The western Ukrainian city of Lviv, which had acted as a safe haven for Ukrainians fleeing the war, has become the latest target of Russian airstrikes. Multiple missile attacks rocked the city at a time when US President Joe Biden was in Poland, only 400 kilometers away from Russian missile strikes.
Russia's offensive in Ukraine has moved to an even deadlier phase. The assault is moving from the east, close to Russian border, to the far west city, Lviv, bordering NATO member Poland. The largest city in western Ukraine was once bustling, providing safe haven for hundreds of thousands of people fleeing the war, raging in the troubled eastern parts. But is no longer the safe zone, immune from Russian airstrikes. In the last 24 hours, the city witnessed one of the fiercest attacks that western Ukraine has experienced by far. 2 rockets struck a fuel depot on the city's eastern outskirts, and 2 rockets later hit a military factory. Followed by high-precision cruise missiles striking an infrastructure facility. Russia showing clear indications that it has expanded the war theatre. The chilling images on your screen capture the panic that gripped the city as missiles rained in. Citizens ran for their lives as they watched the deadly smoke engulfing the region. Civilians huddled inside bunker to escape the wrath of Putin's ferocious assault.
We were sitting in our car for a couple of minutes, and then we heard this very loud, I don't know how to say it, when rocket just came. After a couple of seconds, maybe 30 seconds, second bombing, and everyone left to the shelters.
The attacks had caused significant damage to infrastructure facilities, blowing out windows at a local school, leading to widespread destruction. The attack on the western city came exactly at a time US President Joe Biden was just across in Poland.
And oligarchs.
The US President was exactly at a distance of only 400 kilometers from the site where Putin's missile hit.
When I was a senator and vice president.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power. Let us resolve to put the strength of democracies into action to thwart the designs of autocracy. Let us remember that the test of this moment is the test of all time.
Rescue teams are having their hands full, spending all night extinguishing raging fire and minimizing fallout of the attacks, which raged a fuel shortage, leading the massive flames.
In the fog of war, it is unclear on day 32 if Ukraine is able to strike back and hard at the Russian strongholds. Ukraine has also insisted it's mounted a series of counterattacks in the Kherson region in the south, and that is where the Russians have completely cut off Ukraine from the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea. From Mariupol to Kherson, the Russians once again trying to consolidate their position even as Ukraine's forces try to strike back. With cameraman Lalit Mohan Joshi in Lviv, Ukraine, Gaurav Sawant for India Today.
The mayor of Ukraine's second biggest city, Kharkiv, says a third of its population has left. Russia has once again been accused of using cluster munitions on the Ukrainian city. Here's the news report. As the war between Ukraine and Russia enters its 32nd day, the town of Slavich, that services the defunct Chernobyl nuclear plant, remains completely isolated, with Russian forces just beyond the town's limits. Here's a report.
This is Ukraine's Slavutich on Saturday. The town, home to workers at the defunct Chernobyl nuclear plant, has just been seized by Russian soldiers, according to Alexander Pavlyuk, governor of the Kyiv region. The chant you can hear is residents shouting, "Go home," having unfurled a large Ukrainian flag. Pavlyuk said the Russians opened fire into the air and threw stun grenades to disperse the crowds. Reuters cannot independently verify that report. After more than 4 weeks of conflict, Russia has failed to seize any major Ukrainian city. On Friday, it signalled that it was scaling back its military ambitions to focus on territory claimed by Russian-backed separatists in the east. But intense fighting reported in a number of places suggests there will be no swift let-up in the conflict. Visiting Poland on Saturday, US President Joe Biden described Russian President Vladimir Putin as a butcher. He said he was not sure Moscow was changing its strategy to focus on the eastern Donbass region, despite getting bogged down in some areas. Back in Ukraine, the mayor of the besieged southern port city Mariupol said the situation there remains critical. Vadim Boychenko reported that street fighting was taking place in the center. The city has been devastated by weeks of Russian fire. Outside one damaged apartment block, 2 residents, who did not give their names, described how at night they lie in a cold basement, wondering how they will survive. And in the day, they bury bodies around the building.
Yes, people are dying just like that. What for? They are fighting because they can't decide how to split power, and we are suffering. What kind of a life is this? Is that the old age we were hoping for?
In an address to Qatar's Doha Forum on Saturday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky compared the situation in Mariupol to the destruction inflicted by combined Syrian and Russian forces on the city of Aleppo.
We will continue to get developments on this big breaking story through the days and weeks ahead. The situation is unfortunately likely to take a turn for the worse, but India Today's biggest team of reporters on ground from Moscow to Kyiv to Kharkiv to other parts will continue to get you the latest. But that is all I have time for on this special broadcast. Many thanks for watching.